Hey, buddy.
Hey, how you doing?
Looks like we both got home safely from IT Nation. I heard Orlando Airport was not that fun getting out last Friday or Sunday or whatever.
Yeah, a lot of people did not. I mean, I literally know people who were staying the weekend to go to Disney or just hang out and got stuck and are now taking a week's vacation while they are there just because.
Props for Disney for controlling the Orlando Airport. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, it was a fun week. It was a fun week. Last week, Eric and I were both at IT Nation. We did a lot of interviews. Those are coming up soon. We did a lot of Man on the Street. Those are coming out soon. I did a presentation. We saw a lot of stuff. I mean, I've never been to IT Nation.
And the wand
5,000 people.
chose me.
Oh, yeah. We went to Universal Studios and I made Eric come with me to Ollivander's and they picked him to like have a wand choose him. And apparently Eric's magic is a little womp womp. You couldn't move the flowers. You couldn't get the lights on. Ollivander was very upset with you. You do look like a wizard, though. You're a
I
wizard,
do.
I think. Well, if you want to hear more about what's happening at IT Nation and what we're going to talk about today, which is about getting yourself out there to like do things, stick around for after this. Better near.
Level up your email domain security and deliverability. Reduce business email compromise and reel in that pesky email phishing. Make DMARC a new revenue stream for your MSP. Becoming a managed service provider partner with EasyDMARC is a great opportunity for your business to boost sales and decrease risk. Your customers need DMARC. Your job is to let them know that their email domain might be at risk. Find out more today at atmsp.link/EasyDMARC. That's atmsp.link/EasyDMARC. Operating an MSP sucks. Gozinta is here to make it suck less. With their consulting services, they are your trusted advisors through every step of your MSP's journey, from startup to exit. And their software is crafted with care to ensure that they're solving problems for you and not creating new headaches. Find out more at atmsp.link/Gozinta. That's atmsp.link/Gozinta.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the All Things MSP podcast. I'm your host, Justin Esgar, and with me always is Eric. Eric's beard is now eligible for TSA pre-check, practically as its own passenger. Mr. Eric Anthony. Back to the beard
at least
jokes.
they don't have to x-ray it.
Oh my God, what's in there?
We were talking all kinds of things.
That's gross. We were talking before during the cold open. We both just got back from IT Nation. It was a great week. And I wanted to talk a little bit today about like how to get yourself out there, because a lot of people have come up to me. For those who do know, like last week I was at Unify on Tuesday, and then I popped over to IT Nation. And this coming week, by the time you're listening to this, I'm probably on a plane going to Channel Pro. And I've gotten a lot of questions around how am I getting these gigs? How am I getting myself out there? And how am I getting these meetings with these people? Because at Unify, as an example, I'm not going to say who I had meetings with, but like the people who I had meetings with, I had private meetings with in conference rooms after watching them get bombarded by all the other people that were around asking like these very technical questions. And here I was in a very private meeting with some of these people. At IT Nation, questions around like, there were 5,000 people at IT Nation. There were maybe 100 speakers, but questions around how did I get that speaking gig, or how am I on 2 panels next week at Channel Pro. And I wanted to kind of talk a little bit today about how to really get yourself out there, because I think that's important, especially in our industry where so many of us are introverts, and I'm on a board. I'm not going to say I'm like fully extroverted. I sound good on the radio because Eric makes me sound good. But the question is, how am I getting out there to do these things? And it's not just a matter of like, you're going to bleep this, having big cojones. there's tactics that are involved here to like make these things happen.
Yep. And it's not just about setting meetings with vendors, although I think that's very important, right? I think you should do that. And I think it's important for everybody to share their expertise with the world. And so getting speaking gigs is also really important. I think it gives you an extra level of credibility, even with your clients, not just your peers, that allows you to do more in the industry. But then also, a lot of these are skills that you can use in your sales and marketing process as well. And it dovetails really good with the presentation you did, Justin, on fear the other day at IT Nation, which we will be sharing with this audience sometime in December.
Yeah. So let's start with the beginning part, which is just like, how did any of this happen? And it's not like, I'm not going to like foo this whole conversation and say like, oh, I manifested it. I mean, I do listen to like manifestation stuff when I go to sleep, which, side note, someone told me the reason my Whoop is telling me that I'm not sleeping well is because I'm listening to YouTube manifestations all night long, and they're probably like not letting my brain rest. I love when I get like, you spent 58 minutes in stress zone today, all during sleep, and I'm like, that must have been the manifestation telling me like, you can do it, and me going, no, I can't. No, but the reality is, I put myself out there, and that's scary, right? This meeting I took with the people at Unify was me shooting a shot in the dark for someone who has already rejected me in previous conversations to be like, hi, I'm going to be at this place at this time. Would love to talk to you privately. Can we set a meeting? Like I knew the person that I was emailing, and I kind of understood the way they were working, and I knew that they were going to be terribly busy. I even went so far, I think I even specifically said, hey, can I get 15 minutes? All I need is 15 minutes on your calendar, because I knew this person was going to be like crazy busy. The event was only like 6 hours anyway, and I don't want to bother him pre or post. Can I get 15 minutes on your calendar? And then he just sent me a calendar invite. Done. You know, if you put yourself out there, but you got to be direct, I think is the key here, right? Because if I just left it as like, hey, can we talk? I think it's too open-ended. And I think that's where a lot of us tend to go when we're needing something from someone. But if you can be specific and keep the other people are busy, man. Like, can I get 15 minutes on your calendar is a much easier ask than can I get time on your calendar? Because at least you're setting expectations for the other person. The other thing is the speaking gigs was I put myself out there. I actually remember for the IT Nation one, I think this was really funny because it was you and I were talking about call for speakers one day. I think it was over the summer. And I had learned that IT Nation was doing a call for speakers. And I had sat down and I was like, this is the day I'm going to fill in the form. And I sat down, I started filling in the form, and I lost power in my house. I remember this because they had asked for a video of like what your presentation is going to be about. And I recorded the video from my kitchen. Now, normally, if anyone's watching at youtube.com/@allthingsmsp, you can see I'm in my office. This is my studio. A little more work's going to get done here in the next couple of months, hopefully. But I had to record it upstairs in my kitchen because I didn't have power in this part of my house. This part doesn't get power from the generator. And I remember my opening line with like, I'm so dedicated to doing this presentation. I'm recording this whilst I don't have power on my laptop that is currently plugged into the outlet in my bathroom because my kitchen island doesn't get power when I lose power. Like, I put myself out there in such a weird way that it caught the attention of them and they accepted my presentation. I knew my presentation was going to be good, and I knew it was going to be something that people needed. And I'm pretty sure the people who run IT Nation probably caught wind of that as well. But I think like that hook, which is something we talk about when it comes to sales and marketing, is the hook, right? And even Vaynerchuk calls it, right? It's jab, 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 hook or something like that, whatever he calls it.
Jab, 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 right hook.
Yeah. I wasn't that wrong.
No, it's a great book.
Yeah. So like those kind of things definitely help. You have to want it, I think, is part of it. And from a sales and marketing perspective, it's the same thing. If you're going to put emails out there or try to connect with people, you got to know who you're connecting with and why. You need the why.
Yeah. And, coming from the introvert side of this, it's so easy for us to, hide behind a keyboard, like you said earlier when we were talking about this topic. And the why is so important, like you said, because without a why, we have no passion for anything.
Mm.
But there's two sides to the why, right? There's why we're doing this. And as an MSP, you're doing this because you have a solution that is going to make their business run better. You can make their business more profitable by making it run better, by optimizing not only their IT, because you can do the IT stuff, but you can also, as a virtual CTO, right, as their chief technology officer, actually figure out what technologies can help them. So you have something to be passionate about, right? Because you have something they really could use. But you got to figure out what their why is as well. And a lot of times you won't get that through an email. So emailing back and forth, it's very difficult to
For
figure out
sure.
what their why is. And that's why meetings are so important. But so many people are, I don't know, averse to having that meeting, or they just don't plan well enough for it to hold them well.
I think the meeting thing really comes up to is like ever since the pandemic, which, when we're recording this, it's already the end of the year of 2025. Like we're 5 years out of this. I think people have started going back to the office even if not all of 2025, even the beginning of like midway to 2024. So we're already a year and a half out, quote unquote, out of the pandemic. But I think the pandemic put so much ingrained into us around the idea of I don't have to go there. I don't have to go meet that person. I can do everything over Zoom. And yeah, like you could. Eric and I record this over basically Zoom. It's StreamYard, but because we're not physically in place with one another. But like when we are with one another, we're recording as much as possible because there's something to be said about that interaction. We could have had these interviews with all the people that you listen to all the live long day, but when we're doing it live, especially like the ones at IT Nation last week, there was so much more there. There's the
Yeah.
roar of the people around us, the physicality of being with one another. You can feel each other's energy. Like the thing here with Eric and I on this, on doing it like this, and I'm using this as the example, is just like Eric and I know each other well enough. We understand each other's energies, right? But like a lot of times when you're talking to a customer, especially a new customer, you don't know what kind of energy they have because you're sensing it off of their background. And so many of us use virtual backgrounds or just solid color, or they put their logo up or whatever. You can't get that. And I'm not saying it's impossible, right? Because like as an MSP, we've closed plenty of deals over Zoom because I have clients all over the United States and I'm not flying everywhere to, close a $600 to $1,000 deal. It's not worth it. But there's something to be said about those in-person meetings. There's something to be said about that personal energy. You can feel the heat coming off the other person, as gross as that sounds. Right? Those cannot be replaced anymore. It was fine when nobody was traveling, but planes are full, people are going places, and if there's a client that you want to land, if there's a deal you want to make, if there's somebody you want to meet, you got to go to them and do it. I have clients in Iowa and Missouri, right? And we've talked about this. I'm in New Jersey. I have no problem going to the airport, getting on a plane, flying to Iowa. It's weird in Iowa. I only know like 4 restaurants and I tend to eat there all the time because I'm like afraid to venture out. Actually, true story. The first time I went to Iowa, I went somewhere, I forget the name of this restaurant, with the person who was working for me at the time. They're not with me anymore. And the second time I just went back there myself and had dinner. And the next day I went to my client and they were like, "Oh, where'd you eat?" And I was like, "Oh, whatever, blah, blah, blah." And they were like, "That place is such a tourist trap. Why are you eating there?" I was like, "It's the only place I know." But having that interaction with that client that time was great because they were like, "Next time you're here, we'll take you out for dinner." I'm like, perfect.
Yeah. And that happens when you're face to face. And Zoom, while it's face to face, it's just not the same. You're right. There's an energy that happens, and there's kind of this scale, right, where email is okay for communicating facts and stuff like that. It's very hard to gain or gather emotions, any information that way off of an email. By phone, it's a little bit better and it's a little more personal, right? But face to face is the most important. Now, a lot of times you have to go through a series of steps to get there. And I guess one of the things I want to make sure that people understand as we're talking about this is that it does take some getting out of your comfort zone, right? A lot of us are very comfortable with sending an email and saying, "Hey, we're an MSP in the area. Would you like to chat?" But they won't pick up the phone and
Yeah.
communicate that same information. And I think if you really want to succeed, number one, you don't know what the other person on the other side of that email or the phone or the meeting, you don't know how they operate, right? They may operate better on the phone, or they may operate better by email or even by text. So you kind of got to meet them where they're at, but you won't know which mode works best unless you try all of them, right? And you can't get discouraged by trying one and getting no response.
It's funny you mentioned that because we mentioned Gary Vaynerchuk earlier with the book. One of the things that he's always said, and I'm going to relate to this one, is if you're putting out content, for example, put it out as written, video, and audio, all three, because you never know how someone's going to take in that content. I'm sure for you, the listener, you probably have us on subscribe, but if you don't subscribe, and if you also are not a listener, sorry, I hit my mic, hopefully it'll, if you're not just a listener and you're more of a visual person and you want to watch the two of us, that's why we have the YouTube channel. I think you put out, Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, I think there's a transcript of all these podcasts also somewhere if you really wanted to read it, which this isn't the kind of medium that is readable because my English is horrible. But to your point, the reason Gary says put it out as video, audio, and text is specifically as you don't know how the recipient is going to take that data in. In this regards, when you're calling new customers, whether it's email, phone, text, you don't know how they're going to take in incoming. Maybe you're hitting up someone who lives all day long on LinkedIn and doesn't check their email. Maybe they've claimed email bankruptcy and everything goes to zero. Maybe they only live on text. I have a consultant buddy who only does work over text. Like, it's amazing that he gets people to play in his playground, but he doesn't take phone calls. He doesn't do email. He only does text. And the clients he picks only text with him, and it's perfect. That's his ICP also, so it kind of works out. But there are things around that you can't force your customers or your potential customers to play the way you want to play out the gate. You have to play the way they want to play.
I would say to maximize your reach, you're correct. I would like to take a little bit of a bend on that, though, and say if you want to be strict about how you operate, like, this consultant that feel free to do so. Just realize that it could and will, not could, but most likely will, restrict the total addressable market for you, which, if you can live off that, great. And it'll probably make you happier. But for somebody who has an MSP and they're trying to grow it and scale it, that's probably not a viable tactic.
Yeah. So you have to put yourself out there. Now, look, I understand putting yourself out there is a hard ask. There are things you can do to help make yourself break out of that comfort zone a little bit, right? There's classes you could take. You can do a Toastmasters. You can do an amateur comedy class, which I think is great. You could drink 19 Celsiuses, which is going to be our new sponsor. We're going off of Liquid Death. We're going to Celsius. and hope for the best. There's definitely ways, but you have to be able to push yourself. You have to be able to stretch. You have to be able to make and take steps, not leaps, not bounds, steps. Even if it's I'm gonna make one phone call a day. I'm gonna email 10 people a day. I'm gonna make 50 LinkedIn connections. Like, set yourself a reasonable, achievable goal that allows you to stretch without snapping, but there's also on that cusp of pushing yourself a little bit further.
Yeah. And, you talked about stretching without breaking. You can do hard things, right? And you can build up, I would call it maybe desensitizing yourself to doing hard things by doing smaller hard things first.
Yeah.
Like cold showers.
I tried the cold shower thing. Like, you go in, you like at the end of your shower, you turn it cold for like 30 seconds. Not for me.
No, but if you go gradually and take 2 or 3 minutes to do it, it's so much easier.
No. I couldn't do it for 30 seconds. You want me to do it for 2 to 3 minutes? No, you went the wrong way. If you practice with 5 seconds, then 10 seconds, then 30 seconds, then you can get to 3 minutes. You went the wrong way. You jumped the ledge on the cold shower thing.
You're thinking about it the wrong way. Although your methodology is accurate. Because it works the same, right? You go for 3 seconds, then 10 seconds, then 15 seconds, and work your way up to 30 seconds at that final coldness, right?
Yeah.
What I'm talking about is going from warm to not as warm to a little bit warm.
I got you.
To kind of cold to very cold.
See, this is all comes down to personal politics. You know yourself best.
Right.
So you need to know how to stretch and what works best for you. And if you stretch too far and you snap, you just have to like get up and like brush it off and just say, I'm going to try something else. That's all. It's the way to do it. I mean, this is a weird episode in the regards of like, I want to be able to teach you all how to do something that like I feel I naturally can do, but this is definitely a learned behavior. Like I wasn't born day one being like, hey guys, I'm going to sell you guys everything. Like this is a trained thing where I've just taken in content about sales and marketing, even though I'm horrible at both, but I can understand the correlation and the connection between those things and figuring out how to get yourself out there. I also took an amateur comedy class. We've mentioned this before on the show. I sucked at it. I was so bad, but it got me comfortable with rejection partially and being horrible on stage. I think one of the things, people ask about the speaking thing a lot. They're like, how do you know you're not going to suck on stage? Dude, I don't know. The best thing I can hope for is one person comes up to me afterwards and goes, I really liked your presentation. The worst thing I can hope for is that no one says anything and they all just walk out of the room after. Like if I go, all right, let's do Q&A. And then it's just crickets. And then I go, okay, well, that's my time. Thanks for coming. And everybody just leaves. Like that's the worst that can happen.
Yeah. And that is not on the scale of, bad to catastrophic. That is very low on the scale, right? In terms of things that could happen to you. And a lot of that can be overcome just by preparation, right?
Yeah.
Making sure that, you have a great presentation, you've run it by some other people, you have questions that you're going to ask that would lead to other questions from the audience. There's things you can do. Nothing except doing it, though, is going to get you over the fear of getting up on that stage and talking in front of people. But I will tell you, as an introvert, that I am very comfortable now getting up on stage because I learned how to do it and I practiced how to do it. And over time, I stretched myself to be able to go up on stage and present to, it doesn't matter how many people, and quite honestly, do this podcast. You could start with something like this, start making videos, that'll get you over stage fright as well, because it's the same kind of activity, even though it doesn't have the same dynamic as a live room. It will help. So if you're doing a presentation, record it, watch yourself, see what you do, and make improvements before you go live on stage.
What I think is funny is I find that us doing the podcast, because for those who don't know, like Eric and I we record on StreamYard and we're basically just screaming at each other through the void, right? There's no one listening live. We're not live streaming this when we record usually, but it's Eric and I and a black border around us when we record, screaming into the void. Doing a presentation for like 100 or 150 people, in my opinion, is way harder than this because I can see the people. But knowing that I want to get to like keynote status where I'm on stage and the audience is all dark and I can't see them would feel so much more comfortable to me than 150 people, because it's very similar to you and I just screaming into the void now. Because when you have 1,000 people, there's no time for Q&A. I'm literally screaming into the void. Next week, when you're listening to this, I'm probably at Channel Pro on stage for 125 people that I can see. In my opinion, and I've gotten over this, and I'm not saying it's easy, but I feel like that's hard. So it's funny because like this for me is easy. What you and I are doing is easy, and I feel like if I had memorized my script and my presentation, I can do a keynote for 1,000 people in the dark. But it's this weird like ramp, like from here starting at 0 to 150 people. It's like 1,000% harder, and then a keynote would be 1,000% easier. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, and if you want me to keynote your presentation in the dark, please DM me. That's just my pitch, right? It's just putting myself out there. But doing that, like, it's a weird and this is my own personal thing. It's like a weird heart palpitation. Maybe it's too many Celsiuses. It's a weird heart palpitation thing where I got to get on stage, especially when I'm doing a presentation about emotions. Like, I think if I went on stage and was like, here's how you do stuff in Apple land, I'd feel a lot more comfortable doing that, especially off the cuff. I'm also a more off the cuff speaker, and that's something you got to learn about yourself. If I had to do an entire presentation off the cuff and I wasn't drunk, I probably could do a much better job. Not saying that my presentation at ITNH was horrible. In fact, like Eric said, we'll air it soon. Hopefully I can do it live at a couple of their other shows. But there's this weird, in my head, there's this weird dichotomy of like 0 to 1,000 back to 0, depending on like the audience.
Well, and that's interestingly enough, that's another difference between you and I, because I actually like having a relatively smaller audience. And I'll say, you said 150, I don't know, maybe it's less than 200, but whatever, where I can make eye contact with people, because I am very, I wouldn't say concerned, because that's not the word. It's more like in tune with how my presentation is landing with people. And I don't get that unless I can see them.
Yeah, because you're getting that visual feedback. Like when I was doing the presentation last week and I was watching people nod and like take pictures of the slides and stuff like that, like it gave me the warm fuzzies, you know, and I know that I'm doing the right stuff and these people want to hear what I have to say, which really helps. I think if I'm in a room of 1,000 or 5,000 or whatever, and the room is, because I didn't go to the keynote for IT Nation. In fact, I didn't go to any presentation for IT Nation.
We were too busy.
I was too busy interviewing death. That's on our LinkedIn. But I saw the keynote and how, there's 5,000 people there. And there's I don't know who was on stage the first night, not the Gary Sinise night, the other one. And just the room being dark, or even like watching like Tim Cook do a presentation, or even I went to the Unify event and there were maybe 500 people and the room was dark and there's somebody on stage doing a presentation in front of a giant screen. Like, it's a much different feeling, but it all starts from the beginning. Like, I'm going to wrap this with a bow. It all starts in the beginning. You have to put yourself out there. You have to have a why, and you have to be concise, and you have to understand what you're doing and how you're going to get it out there. And it's the 5 W's we learn about, right, in like 3rd grade. Who, what, when, where, why. Who is you? What is, you want to put yourself out there. When is, whenever the show is. Why is your why, and how is by asking for very specific things. Your ask has to be specific. I need 15 minutes on your calendar. I need to be at that event. I need to be speaking as a presenter or a keynote or a panel. I need a 5-minute lunch and learn. I need to get my name out there, and I need to do YouTube videos, like whatever it is. You have to do those things, write them down if you're not doing this, if you're starting out, and just Shia LaBeouf it. Just do it. You could just put that stupid ass meme in there. Just do it. Like
And that goes to the W that you missed, which was when.
No, I said whenever the event is. Oh, do it now. I got you. When?
Yeah.
Start now. Stop listening to us as we close the show and pull over and do it now. If you're not sure what to do,
something. Do something that stretches you and gets you out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, that's it. Do something.
That's where growth happens.
If you're not sure what to do, check us out. Facebook.com/group/allthingsmsp and ask us, and we'll help you do it. YouTube.com/@allthingsmsp. Check us out in our high def glory. Like, subscribe, ring the bell. You know what to do. Just do that. Start there. Learn more about how to run your MSP by listening to us. That's what I got to say. Eric, last words. 3, 2, 1, go.
I thought I already had my last words, but just again, I would say that getting out of your comfort zone is what causes growth. And if you want to grow in any aspect, whether it's public speaking, whether it's in sales, whether it's marketing, you have to do things you haven't done before to get results that you haven't gotten in the past. I mean, that's the biggest thing that I've learned, is that if I want something different, I have to be and do something different.
That's exactly right. Well, go do something different, but don't not listen to this. Continue listening to this show, but do something else different. That's what my last words are. That's it. That's Eric. I'm Justin. Bye.
Thank you for listening or watching the All Things MSP podcast. If you liked this episode, go ahead and give us a thumbs up. Hit that like button and consider subscribing to catch all our weekly episodes. And from your host extraordinaire, Justin Esgar, and myself, Eric Anthony, your humble producer and All Things MSP founder, thank you very much for spending your time with us. If you are not aware, All Things MSP started as a Facebook group and now supports over 6,000 members. We also have a LinkedIn page for those of you who don't do Facebook, and make sure to check out our YouTube channel for even more content. And a big thank you to our premier sponsors, EasyDmark, Helped, GoZinta, MoveBot, and Nodeware. And thank you to the rest of our sponsors. Without sponsors, we could not do what we do for the MSP community. Please consider checking them out. The All Things MSP podcast is a BizPow LLC production. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not reflect the thoughts and opinions of any employer, vendor, sponsor, or random taxi driver in the Metro DC area. Be sure to join us next week for another exciting episode.